bubbles and black sheep and really bad eggs. Drink up my yardies, yo ho. Jocelyn wasn't your typical 12-year-old girl in finishing school. Instead of focusing on wanting to be a young lady with good manners, she would daydream of being a pirate and even carry the spiders in her pocket. Oh, yes. Anyways. Would you believe me if I told you that a tiny spider could save a pig's life? What if I told you that a pig and a spider could be the best of friends? Well, it's true. I'm going to tell you about one of my favorite books. It's a classic story about finding an unlikely friendship between a pig named Wilbur and a spider named Charlotte. Wilbur was born much smaller than his siblings. They called him the Runt. Mr. Arable was going to kill him, but the farmer's daughter Fern begged for his life, not understanding why his size mattered so much. So her father gave the piglet to Fern. She named him Wilbur and played with him every day alongside of her dolls. But after only 5 weeks, Wilbur had gotten too big to stay in the house with Fern. Mr. Arable insists that Wilbur is sold and is sent across the street to the Zuckerman's barn. Wilbur struggled at first and missed Fern terribly, and before he fell asleep on his first night at the barn, he called out, "Good night," in hopes of a response. Only one small voice replied, "Good night," and he wouldn't know who it was until morning. Wilbur then discovered it was a spider named Charlotte. Wilbur was grossed out by her eating habits. She would spin insects in her web and suck their blood. But he soon realized it was necessary for her survival. Wilbur enjoys the summer days in the barn, when Fern can visit every day. But then the sheep who also lived in the barn delivered some terrible news. They told Wilbur that the Zuckermans were planning to cook him up for their Christmas dinner. Charlotte couldn't let that happen to Wilbur and tried to think of a way to save him. The next morning, Charlotte's bread read the word "some pig." The news spread near and far, and many came to see her display. She knew she had to keep Wilbur alive by finding more words to put on her web, so she sent the barn rat, Templeton, to the dump in search of newspaper clippings. And even though Templeton was fat and lazy, he knew if he didn't help Charlotte, he wouldn't get any more of Wilbur's slop. In case you don't know what slop is, it's pig food. So he headed back to the dump for Charlotte's next 2 words, gradient and terrific. Although Templeton thought the word crunchy was perfect, Charlotte disagreed. She felt it sounded too much like crispy, who might make people think of crispy bacon. Mrs. Arable started to be concerned for her daughter. She tells her that animals in the barn are talking to her, so she makes a visit to the local doctor, and Dr. Jordan calmly tells her that he believes it's possible. He also told her that he thinks the reason adults can't hear them is because they talk too much. Wilbur got so popular from the words on the web that they decided to take him to the fair. Charlotte becomes weak and soon needs to make a sack for her eggs, but she doesn't want to miss going and asks Templeton to join her. Charlotte needs a new word to impress people, so she sends Templeton off one last time. By morning, Charlotte weaved the word humble into her web. Unfortunately, Wilbur didn't get first place, but he did receive a special prize for his uniqueness. When Wilbur gets back from his announcement, he noticed Charlotte laying in the upper corner with a tiny furry ball next to her. Wilbur asked if she was okay, and she said she was laying her sack of her 514 babies and was dying soon. Wilbur shouted at Templeton to get the egg sack, and if he did, he promised him half of his slop every day. And as we already know, Templeton loved food, so he agreed. On the way home, Charlotte sadly passed away. Wilbur had tears coming out of his eyes, and everyone in the barn was heartbroken. Months passed, it's now spring. Wilbur woke up from a cracking noise and shouted for everyone to wake up. And as everyone opened their eyes, they realized they were covered in baby spiders. Charlotte's babies. Wilbur told them they were welcome to stay where their mom used to live, but when Wilbur looked up, he saw them floating in the wind. He cried out, "Wait, don't you want to stay?" They replied, "We're going where the wind takes us. Wee, wee!" Wilbur thought everyone had left until he heard 3 small voices saying, "Salutations." Turns out, 3 of Charlotte's babies decided to make a home in the barn. They named themselves Nellie, Joy, and Aurelia. And that concludes my speech on the novel Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. Hello, fellow classmates. If you wouldn't mind, I'd like you to sing this along with me. Poliomyelitis, more commonly known as polio. Polio was one of the most feared diseases in the United States. In 1952 alone, nearly 60,000 children were infected, thousands were paralyzed, and more than 3,000 had died. In 1949, one of the infected children was a 12-year-old girl named Peggy Schultz. After collapsing at school, she developed flu-like symptoms, and that Friday in early September, Peg got the news she had the massive disease. Peg was admitted to a hospital for polio patients called the Sheltering Arms, and by the next morning, she was paralyzed. She was quickly transferred to a larger hospital that could provide her with a respirator and an oxygen tank to help her breathe better. After a few days of isolation, she got a new roommate named Tommy, but all of her belongings had to be burnt because they may have contained the polio virus. The two became great friends and made the best of their time at the university hospital. And since Tommy was confined to an iron lung, Peg would read him books every day, and they would always listen to the Lone Ranger on the radio. And an iron lung is a rigid respirator that encloses the whole body except the head, in which alternate pulsations of high and low pressure induce normal breathing movements or force air into and out of the lungs, which is basically just a machine that helps you breathe. The worst part of Peg's treatment at the university hospital was her daily exercise, Miss Crab, which was not her real name. Peg always just called her that because she was very crabby. Peg would have to do stretches that were so painful, she'd call them torture time. After a while, Peg improved and was able to go back to the Sheltering Arms, where she spent several months rehabilitating and stayed with girls who also had the disease. One of the girls was Alice. She had been there for 10 years because she was so badly crippled that her parents didn't want to take care of her anymore. And after 7 months of treatment, Peg was finally able to return to school and try to live a normal life again. Peg was a fighter and didn't let polio stop her from following her dreams and living a full and happy life. She went to college, she got married, adopted 2 kids, and now even has 4 grandchildren and a great-grandson. Peg has written over 50 books, and I look forward to reading another one of her award-winning stories. I not only chose this book because I enjoyed reading about her life, but also it was because of my own family contracted the horrible disease, but unfortunately, he didn't survive. This is my grandma's little brother, also my great-uncle John Stanford Strain. He was born in July of 1951 in Wenatchee, Washington, and passed away in December of the following year at only 19 months old. And just like Tommy, he had to be in an iron lung at the hospital, but he got better, so he went home and he had to sleep in a body cast. But unfortunately, he got sick again, couldn't handle it, so he died. As I'm talking about the rest of my board, this is the cover, Small Steps Here I Got Polio, and this is Peg Carrot, formerly known as Peg Schultz. She promised her favorite doctor that she would walk again, and she did. And on her 13th birthday, she got a wheelchair, and she named it Silver after the Lone Ranger. And that's it.
Very well done, Ryan.
Larissa.
I love how you stopped in your speech and actually pointed at stuff and actually added some real life stuff.
Yeah, real life, real connections.
Yeah, I did a lot of research. Like, it took me about 2 or 3 days to do some research.
That's awesome.
Brandon.
Did you get any help with your visual aid?
Yeah, my mom helped me print out the pictures, and she outlined some of my drawings. But I covered it up and did the coloring and stuff. And my sister did the I Will Walk Again and the stars.
A couple more.
Savannah.
How long did it really take you to actually get all of them nailed down?
Like this.
No, your speech, because I thought it was actually pretty impressive.
Well, five, 4 days, maybe. Also with this. Last night, before last night, we were able to finish this and practice, and then last night I practiced basically before dinner, and then after dinner was my final practice. And Nico.
Literally, that speech was so beautiful. You literally made me cry a little.
I did too. I was really choked up a little bit. That's pretty awesome. You drew some tears from a few people. Good job, Ryan.